Hey everybody, so in this video I'm going to be going over the pen tool basics and how to get through the pen tool demo that you have as a classwork assignment. First and foremost, where is the pen tool? Well, the pen tool, if you have the basic workspace, should be right on your toolbar, the third tool down. You can also click P to get there as well. Now that we have the pen tool selected, let's zoom in on our first shape. Now the pen tool is very simple when it comes to basic geometric shapes. When it comes to things like rectangles or squares, triangles, stuff like that, all you have to do is really click to make points. So let's start our first point right in this top left corner. And all we're going to do is just click, and it creates what's called an anchor point. Anchor points are these little blue boxes. So every time you click, it's going to make an anchor point. Another thing is when you're trying to make like a straight shape or something that isn't like curved, kind of like how this line is right now, you can hold down Shift on your keyboard and that will make sure that you stay on a proportionate axis. For example, it'll only go straight across or at a 45-degree angle, which is pretty cool. So I'm holding down Shift and then I'm clicking, and I'm just going to keep holding down Shift while I'm doing this to make sure that all the lines stay straight. And then really the most important part about making any shape with the pen tool is that you need to make sure that you finish off the shape. Right now it might look like it's done, but we didn't close it up, and you can tell that because there's no blue line kind of connecting this point to this point. So we always have to close up the shapes by going back to the first point that we originally made and then clicking down, and that creates a closed shape. All right, so we've made our first pen tool shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this over. And for the sake of consistency, I'm going to click I on my keyboard to turn the eyedropper tool on. And then I'm going to eyedrop that red box that we just copied. And yeah, we just made a perfect duplicate of that rectangle. Okay, so let's zoom in on number 2, which is the blue circle. Now, we just eyedropped red, so what's going to happen is it's going to change the colors on our toolbar to red. So I want to go back to the default fill and stroke, which is just white and black. So you can click D on your keyboard to do that. And then for this, it gets a little bit tricky when you're doing more complex shapes. Like a circle kind of is a more complex shape with the pen tool. So I'm going to click the fill, and then I'm going to click the transparent or none option to make sure that all we can see is the black outline and not the white fill. So when we played the Bezier game, you might remember the circle, I believe, had 4 points. So that's similar to how we are going to do the circle on Illustrator. Now, I've talked about this already, but I use a little bit different of a pen tool method than the Bezier tool. For me, I've always found my method a little bit easier, so it's good that you guys will have kind of 2 separate methods to refer to, and you can kind of pick which one you like better. Now, the first point is going to start right up here, right in the top center, and we're basically going to be breaking up the circle into quarters. Okay, so I'm going to click to make my first point, but you'll notice if I go to the next part of the circle, it's a straight line. So if I click, that's not going to work out very well. So what we do when we're trying to make curved lines, something that kind of goes around the circle like this, is we hold and drag. And what that does is it allows you to kind of pull the handlebars, that's what I call these little lines, not to be confused with anchor points. You can tell that these are handlebars because they have those little blue circles at the ends instead of the squares. So again, I'm just pulling, and then I'm going to let go once I think that it fits pretty well. Perfect. So now I want to move on to the next point. However, you might notice that it kind of restricts you when you do these curves. You can't really get it to the perfect spot, and you might have trouble with that. So what we do to combat that is every time we draw a curve, we click the anchor point that we just drew. And what this does is it removes one of the handlebars that we just created so that it goes back to a straight line. And then once it goes back to a straight line, we can turn it into a curved line again just by holding down and pulling. So that's it. So we're going to continue with that notion all the way around. So Again, clicking the point to get rid of that handlebar, going back to the next quarter, and we are almost there. And last step, in case you forgot from the first shape we did, was we have to connect to our last point. So I'm going to do one more click on the anchor point, and then we're going to pull, and we made a beautiful rounded shape. Again, I'm going to pull this over to the other side, eyedrop tool on my keyboard, and look at how nice that looks. So of course, this is just pen tool practice. If we were making a real circle in Illustrator, unless we wanted to be very specific, we would just use the ellipse tool to create a circle. So let's move on to number 3, which is the heart. Now this one is a combination of straight lines and curved lines. This one I definitely do a little bit differently than the Bezier game does. So we are going to start off right in the center here with an anchor point. But what I like to do is I like to look at shapes and kind of find other shapes in them. So when I see a heart, I see a circle right here, kind of going around like this, and then it kind of has an extension point. So what I want to do is I want to find, that quarter of the circle, just like we did on number 2. So I feel like the quarter would be right here, right at this like top part. So I'm going to click and drag, and that's going to create, a quarter of my circle. Click my anchor point to make a straight line again, and then I'm going to go to my next quarter of the circle, which would be right around here. Perfect. And now, there are straight lines here. It almost kind of fits if I do kind of just go down to this part. So I could, but what I'm really gonna do is I'm just gonna click the anchor point, and I'm just gonna go around one more time just to make it like really specific, just to make it really precise. I'm doing like a very slight curve. And then I'm finally gonna click the anchor point again. This time I'm not gonna pull. I'm just going to create a point. And that is it for this first half. We've went over this already plenty of times. If you want to make something symmetrical, the best way to do it is just to copy and paste it and flip it. So what I would do here is, first of all, I want to close my shape. And then I am going to go to my selection tool, which is V on my keyboard, Command C and then Command V. And then I'm going to go to my properties panel over to the flip horizontal button right here. And this makes a perfectly symmetrical shape. And the only issue is right now these shapes are not connected. So the way that we are going to connect them is by selecting both of them and then going into our Pathfinder tool, which is another tool that we've already went over. So I'm going to click Unite, and there we go. So now we have perfect heart that we just traced. So that's all I'm going to go over with you guys. My challenge for you is to go over number 4, which is kind of like a weird, like, germy blob, and do that one all by yourself using the methods that I just taught you. This one is mostly curves, and it's definitely a little bit challenging, but with all the skills that you've developed doing the past 3, it should be a piece of cake. All right, well, that's it. Good luck and have fun.